U is for unfaithful. Hi, I'm Bec from Be Free Emotional Fitness Training, and I support women and girls to become emotionally stronger.
And I'm Vern from Move Forward Mentoring, and I specialise in male mentoring, helping boys and men find their passion, speak from their heart, and build better relationships.
And together we are Rekindling Relationships. We work with couples through mentoring sessions as well as facilitating communication and creative workshops to build deeper connections.
Welcome to our podcast, designed to help you strengthen and bring more fun into your partnership, as well as create a more loving, healthy, and strong connection. Hey everyone.
How you doing?
So today we're talking about being unfaithful, because that's actually quite a big thing in relationships and something that has affected both of us in our own relationships. How about we speak about
Our own experience?
Yeah, let's talk about our own experiences. I think we all know what being unfaithful is, so we don't have to define it for anyone, do we?
I was thinking some people's version of unfaithful might be different to others.
So what would you say that being unfaithful is? What's your version?
I think you can be unfaithful emotionally. If you become emotionally intertwined with somebody else, then that's having an emotional affair.
As opposed to a physical sexual affair?
I think it ends up there most of the time.
So you think you start off as someone checking out, and then they have an emotional affair with someone, and they start to look away from their partner and look towards somebody else, and then that turns into a physical affair.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree that an affair or being unfaithful is about looking away from your partner towards someone else. Let's talk about experiences. Do you want to share your experience of that?
Not really.
This is
really challenged by this.
It's really interesting because there are definitely some of our podcasts that we've spoken about, which you've happily just talked about, and I've done all the research and I'm happy to talk about this thing which is outside of myself, this thing that everyone should do, or things that you do already and you're like, yeah, this is cool, we can talk about this. But there are some subjects. Orgasm was one. That's great.
What about you? I feel like there's no subjects that are like untouchable for you. You're like, yeah, whatever, we'll talk about it. Like, no, nothing challenges or triggers you. And I'm all like, oh my God, do we have to talk about this? Does it bring up stuff for me?
I think that's why I like talking about it, because it feels like it does bring up stuff and we get an opportunity to sort of work on it and share it and think about it. And I don't think there's any subject really taboo.
There shouldn't be. No. Has any subject challenged you thus far?
To speak about? No, I don't think there has been anything really challenging in that sense. Like, I enjoy talking. I enjoy talking to you, talking about things, coming up with ideas, but I don't feel like this is really hard.
Oh, now I feel like I'm going to have to be on a mission, like to find a subject that challenges you.
Okay. Good luck with that. I think it's my background of being a tour guide and being a teacher and having to talk about things off the top of my head sometimes. So I just sort of step in and start talking. Even if it's challenging, I don't actually think about it. So coming back to experiences, as you've
The weather's really nice today, isn't it?
I like how you just, I'll just get Vern talking and then I won't have to say a thing. I know how you work.
Oh, my own experience.
I know this is challenging. I know this is actually, this brings up stuff for both of us. I realised that when we decided to do podcasting in general, there were things that were going to come up and be a bit hard to talk about. But I also feel that once you get talking, then, you're pretty hard to stop. So
It says you.
Go on then.
We're made for podcasting. So my own experience, I was in a very long-term relationship. It would have been my 20th year of marriage when it ended. I've been on the end of feeling like I was actually unfaithful, shame to say, and I didn't end that relationship in a healthy way. We had disconnected, and I think that's obviously where the problem lay. And that was the relationship where I was talking about in previous podcasts that he was into porn. And so we were having some issues and we were becoming quite disconnected emotionally and otherwise. I was sleeping on the couch and we were separated under the same roof, but I then became connected to somebody else. And I guess at the time that was my way out of that relationship, because I was in a religion where unless there's an affair that happens or you die, you can't actually end the marriage. Some respects, I was ending the marriage by having an affair with somebody else, which to this day was a horrible way to end a relationship. And I've learnt a lot from that, if I'm to take anything positive from that. I've learnt that it's very easy to become emotionally disconnected from someone, and because it's human nature to need that connection, we often look for it elsewhere if we're not getting what we need, and that's not an excuse. I don't think there's ever an excuse for an affair. That was my experience of myself being unfaithful, and I would never do that to anybody else ever again. And since then I've had relationships and I've always made sure I end them nice and cleanly before I've ever stepped into anything else.
Do you mean when you realised that relationship wasn't for you?
Yes.
That you actually were really clear about ending it?
Yeah, I've never stepped into another one at the same time as being in with somebody else since that experience. And I realise how awful that is to do to someone. When I've realised that person's not for me, I've ended it in a healthy way and closed that chapter of that book before I moved on to anything else or anyone else.
Thanks for sharing that. I see that it is quite challenging to even speak about it. Does it help speaking about it, do you think?
Yeah, it always helps to speak about past issues that you feel like you need to process. Not always an easy thing to talk about, something in your past, but as long as you learn, and I guess that's what I always take away, I would never do that again. And I learnt from that because I lost a lot. It was so detrimental in so many ways. What about you? What's your experience?
In my 20s, I wasn't a very faithful partner. I had a few relationships which I just wanted to end. Being unfaithful was a way to pretty much end it quickly. Definitely not proud of it. I felt pretty awful every time I did it, and I kept repeating it. The last time I did it, the person who I was with, I was really close to, and I saw how much it really hurt them. And then I decided that I couldn't do that to anyone again. And I made sure after that if I was in a relationship and I wanted to move on from it, then I would actually have a conversation and that would be different. There was a bit of a player about me in my 20s as well, and I wanted the attention from different women. I did that, but it was pretty horrible. I hurt people. I guess karma is it happened to me in the relationship I had with the mother of my children, where she had an ongoing affair, which she didn't tell me about. I found out. That really broke me because I wasn't expecting it. I thought everything was fine. I saw that she had disconnected from me for a number of reasons. Maybe I wasn't as present with her as I could have been because I was busy working. And if I was more present, I might have noticed the cracks, or I might have noticed something else was going on. In the back of my head, I felt something was wrong, but I'd asked and I'd get told that nothing was wrong, everything was fine, everything's rolling along. But the reality was that it was a long-term affair which started as an emotional affair and then became a physical affair, and then that ended up breaking up that partnership, causing separation, and then with kids and all the stuff, which you know as well because you've been through it. It was pretty horrible and heartbreaking. I definitely wouldn't do that to anyone.
No, thanks for your honesty. I think when I saw how much it really messed with the person's head and emotions, like you said, you can always tell, can't you, when something's going on, when they've disconnected emotionally. I told my partner at the time within a couple of days, but obviously there was a bit of an emotional affair happening before that, but once it became physical, I think I told him within that week, really, because I thought I actually can't do that to someone. Plus, I couldn't live a lie. I think of myself as a very honest person and I speak my truth, and I struggled with living a lie, and I could see how much it was messing with that person's head, and I thought, oh, this is just not right. Can always tell when something's not quite right or somebody's disconnected from you. There might be people out there listening that are feeling this disconnection, and maybe it's about nipping it in the bud, and hopefully they haven't disconnected enough that it means the relationship's going to end. But I think it's when the cracks come up, it's talking about those cracks early on. Like I wished that that partner at the time had talked to me about their porn problem. For 17 years they hadn't spoken to me about, probably would have been less cracks. But there's always something going on behind the scenes that's creating cracks that's not being talked about, isn't it?
Yeah, because we don't separate, we don't look towards someone else if we're happy looking towards our partner. We're disconnecting and we're losing ourselves in our work or something else, like we're finding something else to do, then we're actually
checking out. Well, it does. And I think if you're starting to check out, it might be that, unfortunately, some relationships do have an expiry date.
That's something we spoke about.
Yeah.
And that the idea of being together, knowing someone for a reason, a season or a lifetime. And some relationships weren't just made to be a lifetime. They were there to teach you something about yourself or your place in the world or your connection with others. And then it's over. You've got to know when it is over and call it and cut it off and deal with it, rather than try and find a way to avoid doing that by maybe getting involved in someone else, or if you're not feeling it in that relationship and then you start talking about that with someone else, about what's going on in that relationship, that's going to mean that you're going to draw away.
Yeah, that's right. I had an experience just in the last few weeks with a friend of mine who did a self-directed healing on speaking her truth with her partner that she'd been with for 18 years. And she felt like they were going on different paths. And after talking to her over time, I said, it sounds like he's emotionally checked out, but it sounds like you have too. And maybe that this is time for this relationship to take another course. You're at a crossroads. And so I was very proud of her once she did speak her truth to him and what she felt about the relationship, that they both amicably decided that it was over. And I said, well, that's good that you've done it that way and not waited until someone is going to try and fulfill that need of needing that emotional connection with somebody else and it's going to end horribly. So I said, good on you for speaking about it before it's got to that stage.
And it was them actually having a conversation and being really truthful and honest with each other about where they were at.
Yeah, not an easy thing to do.
No, not at all. Not at all. Especially when you know that you're done and it's time to go. Or, hey, we need to talk about whether it's time to go. Like, is this where we want to be?
It's a hard conversation to have, but, you know, hats off to people that do it. And it's so important to do if you're at that stage, at that crossroads.
I've heard all sorts of words for that, like conscious decoupling, which is actually about saying, okay, we're no longer going to be a couple, so let's do this really well, which then, when you do it well, really honours the time you spent together. Yeah,
and nobody gets hurt badly like in an affair. It's painful still, but it's not that damage that an affair does.
And if you are having an affair and you're listening to this, then it might be that you say to yourself, well, I actually need to have this conversation because the person I'm with, my partner, needs to know the truth. They need to hear it from you as well. They don't need to hear it from someone else. They don't need to find out suddenly.
They'll always find out. I firmly believe that they'll always find out somehow, and that's way worse.
And it's a form of sabotage as well.
It is a sabotage.
Yeah, self-sabotage. And you might have an old story based on not being good enough or not being worthy or something going on for you which is making you reach out to someone else in a way to sabotage what you've got. You might not think you're good enough for the person you're with, and this is a way to get out of it.
I think that happens a lot actually, where people, sometimes you'll be like, oh wow, they're going really well and one of them's gone and had an affair, and I think that happens quite a lot. And yeah, that's something to be very aware of too.
Definitely, if you are having an affair, then you do need to speak about this. You can't keep it a secret.
I wished in the beginning, I think that even if it's right at the beginning where you're starting to emotionally text someone else and talk to them about your problems and become really close to someone else and not your partner, then that's really an affair in its infancy starting. If you're at that stage, talk to your partner and say, hey, I'm struggling with this and this and I've been feeling like I'm getting closer to this person. Bring awareness to it. And it's not easy for your partner to hear, but they probably already know that something's going on and it'll be almost a relief for them.
And I think they'd appreciate your honesty about that as well.
I would.
That it's not something that, is going to be sprung on them at the end. It's, hey, this is going on for me right now. We need to talk about
before it
this.
Gets to that point of an affair physically.
Or everything blows up and then it's a mess.
Yeah.
Today we've been speaking about being unfaithful, which was a great chat.
It's a hard topic, but
I'm really, really proud of you because you actually went deep, and I know you can, and I love you more and more for it.
Thank you. Thank you for your honesty too.
Join us next episode for V is for Vulnerability.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and follow us.
And check out our website at rekindlingrelationships.com.
Bye for now.
See ya.